Hello and welcome to Stocks and Under. Today we're joined by the team from Weebit Nano, who's in town for Semiconductor Australia 25, Coby Hanoch, Eran Briman. It's the first time we're interviewing you in this setting. So you're the VP of Marketing and Business Development.
Correct.
Role for a young company. So we've got some questions for you. Let's kick it off with sort of the good commercial news, right? So you announced 4C earlier this week. 2 new product customers that were signed, so you achieved the target for 25 for that particular customer type. There's 2 more foundries / IDMs waiting to be signed as the upper targets. Tell us about your comfort level. Are you on track to achieve that?
So we're working with I think more than 10 foundries and IDMs, and there's a lot of activity going on, pushing forward these agreements. Obviously, we have a very strong incentive to close these 2 deals. I think we're doing everything we can not to have them slip to 2026 right now. That's kind of the challenge, but working hard on achieving this target.
All right. And you don't always have control of that, right? I mean, there's these very big companies that have their own agenda and stuff.
I was talking to Eran today about the fact that when we were doing onsemi, I was sure onsemi would be closed by August, September, and then suddenly their lawyer disappears because they were in the middle of an acquisition, and he just, for several months, no answer.
Right.
And then I was saying, oh my God, it's not even going to close by December. I told people by the end of the year. So, I mean, we don't have control of these things.
Yeah.
And these... so many things can happen and whatever. We're doing our best to achieve the milestone. And,
all right. That's sort of the long, big numbers as well, right? The more you have, the more likely they're sort of drop. Yeah. All right. Just looking at the difference between product companies and IDMs / foundries, given that for most product companies, they would sign on initially for just one product, as opposed to, say, onsemi with their Trio platform, they want to use it for that entire platform. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that the tape-out and qualification for product companies would be simpler and faster compared to, say, foundries and IDMs?
It's with product companies, they basically start off with one product, right? I mean, they won't start with multiple products at the same time. They do one product, they see that it's going well, and then they start adding other products to the agreement. We start having addendums to the agreement with that. In the beginning, it'll be very, very focused on their risk product.
Yeah,
okay.
but of course, these product companies, they leverage the fact that the technology is being qualified already. They don't need to re-qualify it again and again for each one. So that means the cycle time there is going to be much shorter than the cycle time for a foundry, where you have to transfer the technology, do the design, run the testing and the qualification. Yeah. These things take longer than just the product side.
Yeah, because they would use a foundry, and so they wouldn't need to have that whole technology transfer.
Correct. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So, and of course, there's a selfish reason to ask that question, because we're trying to model sort of how those sort of milestone payments come in. So if it's relatively safe to assume that for product companies, it might go a bit quicker. Mm-hmm. You can sort of try to factor that in.
Well, eventually, once we're established and people are already used to us, etc., I'm expecting license fees to just be paid up front and not even based on milestones. Right now it's still based on milestones because people don't have that level of confidence yet.
Right.
So,
when do you expect that to happen? If you could answer that at all.
Well, as we move forward, the more customers we have, the more people feel comfortable with us, the more clout we have. We'll be able to demand the payment up front, and that's it.
All right. So with the 3 product companies you signed, you mentioned in the first one back in the quarterly for the 4th quarter of the last financial year, so we're talking late July, you actually mentioned that it was a security company. You didn't do that for the last 2 that you announced. But in general terms, where do you see most of the growth come from, especially within this particular product group? Which sort of category, which vertical?
Which markets?
Yeah.
So we see a lot of traction in the automotive market. Absolutely, a lot of interest there. There's a clear need for an NVM that runs at lower process nodes, like 28 nanometer and below. And this is, there's a clear gap over there. Flash does not work, does not scale in these process nodes. So the need is imminent, and we see this, for example, with onsemi and with others as well. The other would be AI. where clearly this is where that non-volatile memory is being used not only for code storage, but also to store the neural net weights. These are much larger arrays that you need to integrate. And these things also have to go to 28 nanometer and below in order to get the performance that you need in your AI application. So these are maybe the two most interesting and imminent opportunities that we see. And of course, we are seeing the continued interest in those power management and high voltage applications. This is, for example, onsemi and DB High-Tech are both power management analog mixed signal designs, where the integration, the technical integration of flash with those analog processors is very difficult. And our integration being a back-end of line is much easier, and that's more immediate, I would say.
Yeah. And so you mentioned AI. So if we specifically look at ReRAM, the applications in Edge AI are, it's everywhere basically.
Right.
But that is a very fast evolving market, right? So what sort of differences have you seen or developments have you seen in the last sort of 12 months? Because it's gone pretty fast. And where do you see it going in the next sort of towards the end of 2026?
So I think when it comes to Edge AI, you see multiple stages happening, right? Today, the solutions being used today are a two-chip solution where you have your AI SoC and non-volatile memory mostly being flash as a separate die. The next and immediate thing that we're seeing already happening is that integration onto a single chip solution, and removing all these interfaces and the bandwidth and the power consumption related to these two-chip solutions. The next step we're going to see, and that is already happening, we're getting some very strong indications from customers, is in-memory compute, where the processing itself happens within the memory itself. And that eliminates completely all of these data movements. No more data movements, not from external memory onto internal SoC, but not within the SoC. It runs at the in the memory itself. This is something that, in the past, we've seen it mostly in research institutes and universities. Nowadays, we see this already happening in like real commercial companies, and even big companies are moving forward on that front. So I think timeline-wise, this is going to be shorter in the, maybe a couple of years kind of a time frame. And then, of course, the future is still these neuromorphic computing architectures, like really mimicking the brain. And that is still in research, and this is still going to take a few years until it matures.
Yeah, that's a couple of years out. If you look at in-memory compute, that's a bit closer. Obviously.
It's closer.
How long do you think before we see ReRAM being able to sort of, being applied in those sorts of applications?
So really, I think when it comes to in-memory compute, this is in the next few years, several years, but really, it's happening already behind the scenes. Customers, companies are making some progress. We're getting a lot of interest. Now that we have ReRAM, it's been qualified already. It's available in multiple foundries. We get more and more interest in these in-memory computes.
Right. And so just going back to Edge AI, most applications out there right now, or coming up, would need ReRAM sort of below, say, 20 nanometers, depending on what it is. It could be 16 or even below that. What needs to happen at Weebit for you guys to be able to address that specific segment?
Well, we're ready to address that segment.
But you're on 22, right? So
we actually have PTKs of processes that are definitely below 22.
Right.
And we've been simulating and checking, and we know we'll manage to run there. The key issue is, of course, just getting the fabs to sign up. So that's really the blocking issue right now, is just getting those agreements, the license agreements with the fabs.
All right. So if one came along now today and said, I need this, at whatever resolution below sort of 20, you could sort of work towards that in a sort of timely fashion, basically.
Yeah, definitely down to the 12, 10 level.
Okay.
We've already simulated, we've done work, so I can say that with more confidence. We haven't simulated it below 10 yet. That's although we don't see the issues, but I can't say it with confidence yet. There are very, very few fabs that work at that level.
Yeah, sure. And this probably a couple of years out before you actually need to hit that.
Yeah, right now, there's so much to do, with the 10 and above.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, last question. A lot of stuff has been going the right way, especially 2025. So it's all going crescendo. What's the biggest challenge that you guys see between now and, say, Christmas 2026?
I think right now it's just, getting the sales done. That's just getting the customers to feel confident to move forward. I said it many times. I believe that as we start signing more agreements, people's perceived risk is going to go down, and that barrier will go down. I mean, there's a huge vacuum in the market right now. There's really, you can see it at Global Foundries announcing that they have ReRAM. It shows the demand in the market. People want ReRAM.
Right.
And all of their competitors, all of the other fabs, the IDMs, the foundries, they need to compete. So I believe that there's a huge opportunity, but the challenge is just making it happen and growing the team in the right way, in an organized way, and growing the activity and going into in the past I referred to it as the tornado when you start getting more and more demand and doing it in an organized way.
All right. So let me ask you this then as a follow-up. What is the bigger challenge, getting customers across the line to sign on the dotted line, or managing that growth once they come in? In terms of people,
that's
processes.
A good question. Yeah, it's a good question. Actually, both are a challenge. I would say we spent 2025, and I think I even said it in the AGM or in one of the early meetings this year. For me, 2025 was the year of conversion from working with one product at a time, one customer at a time, to starting to work in parallel with multiple customers.
Yeah.
And we put a lot of effort into building that infrastructure, into building the templates that we use. So now whenever we have a new customer, we just copy it, and everyone knows I'm looking for this file. It's in that folder under that name.
Right.
It's very easy to find everything, the procedures and so on. We set up the customer success team, which is part of that. Addressing multiple customers now in an organized way. A lot of things moved from Excels and Word to organized tools that we're now bringing in to manage the all of the work. So there's a lot of that going on. I mean, I kind of declared it as, Weebit will become ASX 200, ASX 100. We need to set the infrastructure. And by the way, on the governance side, you can see the same thing. We brought Anne Jones, and now she's a deputy chair, and she's helping us a lot with all of the governance, with all of the procedures inside the board and how we work. We issued an ESG report. We didn't have to, but we're already preparing for that growth. We know, we're sensing it. We can't guarantee anything, but we're sensing that growth coming, and we want to be prepared. We don't want to fall once, suddenly we're swamped with a lot of things. So we're working hard on that infrastructure.
And also, back to the scaling with working with multiple customers, but, bringing in those customers. Each customer makes it easier for the follow-on customers to take that decision. And we've witnessed this with our DB High-Tech deal that enabled onsemi, for example, and we're seeing this also with onsemi. And we'll see this as we move forward. It's going to become easier for customers to take the decision and to take the risk. The risk is going to be lower for them. They see other customers already adopting, soon also shipping. That's going to reduce these barriers for new customers.
Excellent. Well,
Yes.
exciting times ahead.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.